Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica DeMaria, and I have not been on here in a very, very long time. It's been a long time coming. I have been for a while trying to get on here to do this video. Actually, there might be quite a few because I'm not going to be able to get out what I need to say all in one. So I believe the last documentary that I made on parental alienation and me being alienated from my child was back in 2016, October of 2016, somewhere around there. It might even have actually been before then. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it's around then. It's been quite a journey over the last 3 years. Over the last 3 years. Let's just say that I don't know why I'm on here today doing this. My heart just leads me and I just go, and God leads me to where I need to be. And I feel like I've been having this push to do this because it's important that you not only seen the struggles that I went through alienation, but it's also important for you to see the outcome later on, years later. And that is why I am on here. And I tried to review some of those documentaries that I did, and my heart hurt for myself. It pains me to watch them. So anyway, I knew God, I knew of God, I knew how to pray, I knew all that stuff, but did I actually physically know who God was? Did I actually physically have a personal relationship with God back in 2016 and before then? No, I did not. I completely had a breakdown, okay? I just want you guys to know that I completely had a breakdown in October of 2016. I will never forget the breakdown that I had. I just, I think that I had some contact with my child, who is now a young adult now. And the contact that I had was very devastating to me and really hit my heart very hard in a place where I knew that he was older and that I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't go to the courts anymore. I couldn't, fight anymore. And basically, I was at a huge loss. And so I knew that at that point, back in October of 2016, that it was completely out of my hands, that I had no control over the situation. And I completely fell on my knees and just prayed to a God that I didn't even know, that I didn't even have a personal relationship with. And I completely broke down to him, to God, and just asked him to help me, because I knew that I couldn't do it on my own anymore, and that I had to give it to God to deal with and to handle, and give it to him, and everything would be in God's timing. And, did I know that at that point? I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. I didn't really know. I was just putting my trust in God and all the things that I have heard and all the things that I had been seeing and going through for 17 years. It was like all hitting me. It was like a huge, huge cry out to God for help. I've never done that before. I've never broken down at that point like that ever before in my life. So it's a huge, huge step, a huge, huge start to a journey that has totally, totally changed my life. So if I could say it like that, I will say that this journey has totally changed my life for all of the good. It was it's been an emotional journey, especially for the first year, because there was a lot of things that my eyes were being opened up to that I really didn't understand. Sometimes we tend to lean on our own understanding, and we really fully don't understand what's going on or what's happening. And so when I gave it to God, basically, that was my awakening to knowing God, to building a personal relationship with God, was to reach out to him in the most deepest pain that I don't wish upon anyone. That, people think that losing a child, okay, you can lose a child, they can be ill, you can lose a child that way. I mean, any kind of loss of a child. When a parent loses a child, you think of loses a child like you're burying them, and you have a funeral for them, and you have a service for them, and and there's just all this emotion and all these things in your life that are around you that remind you of this child that you just basically had to say goodbye to. And people think of loss as like that's the only loss. Like that's the ultimate heartbreak and the ultimate loss that anyone could possibly go through. But that is not true, okay? And I'm here to say this because as an alienated parent, okay, we all know what being alienated is, right? So I don't have the definition in front of me, but if you don't know what it is, please look it up. I'm sorry, I do not have that. Maybe I will do that in the next clip that I do. Give you the definition of that. But anyway, when you are an alienated parent, there's several different levels of being alienated. There's a level of being alienated from your children or your child as far as mentally, basically turning one parent against the other, and maybe it just isn't totally, pushing the child away from you, but there's still a lot that has to be worked on. And then there's like another part of being alienated from your children where one parent keeps the child from the other parent and uses every extreme possible and every excuse possible to keep that child away from the other parent. And all the while, the other parent who is alienated, okay, is wanting a relationship with this child, is doing everything they need to do as far as going to court, as far as going to counseling, as far as going to parenting classes, as far as going to a CNA. I mean, we're talking money, lots of money, okay, that you spend going through this process. It's a lot. Not only is the alienated parent paying child support, but the alienated parent is also paying for all the other things, fighting to have a relationship with this child, with these children. It's unfortunate that after it gets to that second stage and you go to the courts and you've exhausted every means to try and make the situation better, the courts don't seem to be there to help you, okay? And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating as a parent to know that you are going to a place that was supposed to be put in place to help you, and they're not even helping you. And so in the severe case of being alienated from your children or your child, in the severest case, that's where that falls in. Nobody's listening. Nobody understands what's going on. Nobody is seeing this. And it's truly unbelievable, literally unbelievable. The situation is truly unbelievable. And when you're asked questions, it's like, how could that be possible? But it is possible. And it really boils down to the other parent. The alienator is what we like to call them, okay? It really boils down to the alienator, alienators, alienators meaning there is usually more than one. When I say when there's more than one, there's usually the alienator's spouse, the alienator's family, the alienator's friends, okay? And what happens is these alienators are such mastermind manipulators, okay? And if you don't know what manipulator means or a mastermind manipulator, you need to look it up. It's pretty easy, just Google it. So these manipulators have all of these excuses and all of these reasons and all of everything. And it's almost as if they play victim, okay? They become the victim. So now an alienated parent is now looked at as the bad parent, the parent who basically is not a good parent, okay? And no matter what that parent does everything they need to do, pays their child support, has history and a background where they have a normal family and they have a history of just, doing all the right things, following all the steps they need to follow that the courts have ordered them to do. And they are still looked at as a terrible parent, okay? How can I say this? Basically, also, when you go through counseling and you go through all that process, the counseling process, there is a lot of manipulation involved in that as well. And it's very biased. So all of these avenues that we are supposed to be able to trust, all of these systems, if you want to call them corporations, okay? So I'm learning all of these things. So through the last 3.5 years, and maybe even more than that, I've done so much research. I've done so much work on this. And over the last 3 years, I had to let it go because I was on this journey into having a personal relationship with God. And I had to let go of a lot of things in order for me to be able to have that personal relationship with God. There was a lot of things. I lost a lot of friends. I don't want to say I lost family, but maybe I lost family. I lost a lot. But I was willing to do whatever it took to understand what was really going on. Because you see, we live in this world where we only see things one way. And we only lean on our own understanding. And there's more to life than knowing only what we know, okay? And as you go on this walk with God and you build a personal relationship with God, you will start to see things that make sense. Like things that never made sense before will make sense to you, like 100%. So anyway, I shared the whole story. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I shared it through the documentaries that I did, okay? And as the last days were approaching where everything basically came to an end as to fighting and going to court and paying child support and all those things, I just was totally drained. 17 years. Heck yeah, I needed a whole 3 years. A whole 3 years to get myself to where I am right now in this moment. A whole 3 years I had to go through all these different things and seeing all these different things and understanding it. That is the hardest part, is understanding why? Why do I have to go through this? Why am I being treated this way? You know, I always had that question in the back of my head. I was young when I had my son. I was 16. I was very young. And I'm looking back and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I was so irresponsible. I was so young. Did I have the right guidance? Probably not. You know, I didn't even know who I was in the world at being 16 years old. I mean, I can't even imagine. My son, Nicholas, is approaching 16 in just a few months, and I can't imagine him having a child right now. And to think that anything is possible. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I'm saying that obviously anything's possible because I had a child at 16 years old. And I think about that for a second and I'm like, I just know one thing. Where I am right now in my life, God be willing, God forbid anything, I would never turn my children away. Ever, 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 ever. I would never, over any situation or any circumstance. I love my children. I love all of them. I love all three of them. So I have an almost 22-year-old. That's the one that's been alienated. One that will be 16 in February, and then one that just turned 5 in May. And I think about it and I'm like, wow, like even just the difference between me being 16 and becoming a parent and me being 38 and being a parent, you know, the way you think and the way you process things is so different, okay? And as a parent who has a child, it's so important to be there for that child who's trying to raise a child in this world. I mean, now in the world today, it's worse than it was when I was 16. It's way worse. But given the situation, and the reason I'm saying this is that I didn't have the family dynamics that I should have had. I had a lot of people against me. You know, when you're young and you're 16 and you're going through that adolescent age, you're rebellious, you don't want to listen, you think you know everything, you think you're always right, and, you know, no means yes, and yes means no, and, you know, it's just like, and you're trying to find your place in the world, you know? You're still trying to find your place in the world even when you're in your your early 20s. So, as a parent, I think about that. It's very important as a parent to try to understand that we need to be there to support our kids, okay? That's so important. I didn't have that, okay? I had a lot of people that were basically stabbing me in the back, and especially family. I had a lot of family that stabbed me in the back and never thought for a second that, hey, you know, she is only 16 and 17 and 18 and still trying to figure out who she is in the world, you know. Let's just try to be a little bit more helpful and a little bit more understanding and a little bit more guiding, you know, and not be so mad and be so bitter and be so angry and be so hateful. And unfortunately, I didn't have that. I didn't have those roots, if that's what you want to call it. I didn't have those roots. So it's really important that our children have those roots from the very beginning. And I didn't have that. And so, you know, I feel like that because I was young, it was so used against me, you know, that I was just this terrible person. But I'm still who I am. I'm still who I am now is who I was then. It's just I grew up. And then also in the last 3 years, going down this path on having this personal relationship with God has changed me tremendously, has made me see things so differently. And that is why I have to get on here and I have to do this and I have to talk, because you can see the difference between 3 years ago and me expressing things to where I am now in my life and the way that I see things now and the way that I understand things now. It's so different. So basically, if you still want to know, I do not speak to my child. My child does not want to speak to me. And I have finally, over the last few years have just come to terms with being okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. Why am I okay with that? I am okay with that because I know that the moment that I gave all of my hurt, all of my frustration, all of it, all of everything that I was feeling inside, and I gave it to God, I knew that God had a plan. And I didn't know what God's plan was. I didn't know what God's plan was going to be. I didn't know where God was going to lead me. But at that point in 2016, October 2016, I was at a point where I didn't care. I just knew of God being good. I've heard of it. I've heard of God being good throughout my whole life, but never really followed God or wanted a personal relationship with God. I wasn't there yet. Everything is in God's timing. And so I got to that breaking point, and that's what led me to know God. So when I look back now, I say to myself, wow, like everything happens for a reason. Things don't just happen because they're just happening. Everything happens for a reason, okay? And I've learned so many valuable lessons, and I've gained so much wisdom and so much knowledge from just going through all of what I went through, basically almost my whole life. And I gained so much. And today, I am so grateful, and I take all the challenges, and I take all of the ups and the downs and just all of it, all of what I was feeling at that point in time in my life. I take it all and I say, that did me good. Because all along, God was with me all along. Now, whether I wanted to believe it, or whether I wanted to know that God was there, or whether I wanted to accept that God was there, God was there. Do I know that? Yes, I do know that. I know that very much now. And people will say and ask, well, how? How do you know that? Why would God put you in a situation where you lost your son? Because that's a devastating thing. That is, whether you've lost a child and had to bury a child, or whether you've lost a child to being alienated, it is the same. It is the same feeling. Why? How I know? Because I carried a child in my womb, and no matter what, I bonded with that child already, and I wanted that pregnancy so badly, and we were going to have a little boy, and we lost him. And so that feeling, it's the same feeling. And the difference between that is this. When you bury a child, that's it. You mourn the loss, but you know where they are. And whether you believe you're burying them and they're going to heaven, or whatever your religion is, or whatever your belief is, there is still a peace that comes after that. And I don't want to say that because I'm being mean. I'm saying that because in reality, the peace is knowing that you know where they are. Whereas someone, as a parent who's alienated from their children, they have no idea where their children are. They know that they have loss of a child, and yet they still walk the earth, get in a car, they drive, go to parties, who knows? There's so many things that our world is exposing our children to. And just because you've been alienated from that child, that's a loss. That is a huge loss, okay? Being alienated from a child or from children. That is a huge, huge loss, and it is not normal, okay? It is not normal. So let me say that. It is not normal to be alienated from any child at all when you just want to love that child. Every child should be able to have all the love in the world from everyone that's willing to give that child love, okay? And to alienate a child away from that is just wrong. But back to what I'm saying. So in the back of your mind, like, I still say to myself as an alienated parent, I still say, not that I live with this in my heart, but anything is possible. I can't go to my child's grave and grieve. I can't go to my child's grave and bring flowers and mourn their loss and mourn the loss of that child. I can't go there and know that I know you're not here anymore, but I know you're safe in God's arms. I can't do that. And no matter how old your child gets, they're still your children. And this is where people don't understand people who are alienated, parents who are alienated, and where they come in their heart and what they technically go through. So I can't go to a grave or to ashes or to a mausoleum, or I can't go there and pay my respects to that child. I can't do that. I live every single day of my life not knowing where my child is, but knowing he's here on this earth, not knowing if something happens to him. Will I be called? Will someone tell me? Because I have had it in the past where my child has been in the care in the emergency room, and then I don't find out until they're home. Like, what if something were to happen and I don't know? So I would know after. So I wouldn't know anything. Would I even be told if there was a funeral? Would I even be told if this child needs a transplant of some sort? Maybe I could be a donor. Would I be asked? Like, these are things that go on and on and on and on and on forever in a parent's mind when you know your child is not laid to rest. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it is a huge, huge loss because there is so much to the loss of an alienated child, okay? That's why it's so important for people to understand that it's awful, okay? But I am so, so, so thankful for God being in my life because I am not controlled by the elements anymore. I'm not controlled by the alienator. I'm not controlled by the situation anymore. I am not easily shaken anymore. I am very much a just day-to-day person, and I'm very grateful, and I try to stay humbled, and I'm grateful for having the opportunity to be a parent in the first place. And I realize that God has a much bigger plan, and I'm okay if that plan doesn't include my son to come back into my life. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with knowing that I've given everything to God and for God to handle it, because I realize that my child is now a young adult and will have to figure out who he is as a person and go through his ups and downs. And it's not up to me anymore. It's not up to me to decide and say, and to keep bothering him, because that's basically what I was told, that I was bothering him and that I wasn't a good person, basically. And it really, really hurt. It really hurt because this child doesn't even know me and only knows of me through what others say instead of what he really knows. And that's what's really sad. But I don't have control over that. I don't have control over what others are going to say about me. I don't have control over any of that. What I do have control over is knowing where I am right now in my life, knowing that I just want to do good, and I just want to walk in faith. I want to just share my love for God, and I want to live my life through that. I want to live my life through God and doing the right thing, and realizing that worrying and being angry and being bitter and being frustrated and being and just all those things, it doesn't change anything. It changes nothing. It changes absolutely nothing. So as I went on this walk in my faith in God, and I started building this personal relationship with God, it's changed things tremendously. It's changed my life. I'm still who I am as a person. I'm still fun. I still love to hang out with my friends. I still, I'm married. I'm married to an amazing man, and we have 2 beautiful children together. And, we've built this beautiful life, but that doesn't mean that we don't struggle. That doesn't mean that we don't have our ups and downs and we don't go through our seasons, because we all go through different seasons in our lives. And how we come out of those seasons depends on where you are in your faith. So it's very important to understand that when you decide, because everything's always in God's timing. It's God's timing no matter what. Whether you want to sit and you want to just think everything's just going to fall into your lap, it's not going to happen that way. And prayer is huge. Prayer is so huge, okay? And I'm going to just share a little something with you right now on a situation that just happened. My mom, she didn't just happen, but this just happened. What pushed me to do this right now? Sometimes God orchestrates things in just a certain way. And, I've been just contemplating on just doing this and getting back out here in the open about the situation and expressing to you where I am right now in my life and where I was and where I am now. And there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. And I'm just trying to give testimony to how good God really is, to how good and loving and mighty he really is. Okay? Because I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for God. My heart wouldn't be where it is right now. I wouldn't be here as a person and who I am right now. I don't carry the anger and the bitterness and the frustration and the hate and the grudges and the judgments. I don't carry that with me. I don't carry that with me ever anymore. It's completely, it's just non-existent, because I can't do that. Because that's not how you walk in faith. That's not how you walk in faith. That's not where if I have a personal relationship with God, how could I be bitter and angry and hateful and judgmental? How could I be that way? Because that isn't how God is. God is loving. God is good. God is mighty. God is here for everyone. God wants us all to be what he created us to be good, to be loving, to be caring, to be not judgmental, to see love, to see kindness, to be able to give to others what others may not be able to understand. And so it's like I've been on here, and this isn't the end, because there's so much more that goes with this that I can't get into right now, and I will get into, and I will just keep sharing these videos and putting it out there. But I had to just branch off from where I was in 2016 and to where I am now, so you kind of can get an understanding. But I want to give my true testimonies, okay? And all those documentaries that I did, those were testimonies of what I was going through that situation. And it's very important to see those and know what you see and where I am now, and to be a testimony, a true living testimony for God and how God works in our lives and how God changes us for only the good and only the better. I was baptized on September 29th, and that was huge for me. And wow, like so much has happened since then, and so many things going on, and so many good things going on, and so many things going on that are very challenging and very testing. And I'm just seeing so many different things that, like, I'm just blown away by. Things that I didn't understand years ago are basically being shown to me now, where I can say, wow, so that's why that happened. And so that's why I did what I did, or that's what the reason was. Or, okay, so I understand that now, basically. God gives it to us when it's in God's timing, not our timing. Sometimes we want to understand something. We want to get something right there, right then, right in the moment. And it doesn't always happen that way. It just doesn't happen that way. That's why God wants us to pray, to fall into worship, to build a personal relationship with God, because there's so much wisdom and so much knowledge and so much love that God wants to give all of us. And we're just really closing ourselves off to a door that truly needs to be open in this world. And the door is to just have a personal relationship with God. You need to open up that door and just go for it, because I am here to tell you that it has changed my life, completely changed my life. And I am so thankful. I am so thankful. And yesterday, in church, they spoke about how we should be praising God and how we should be blessing God, because God should be blessed, because he blesses us every single day. He continues to bless us every single day, even though many people refuse to accept the blessing, even though many refuse to believe. He truly blesses us every single day. You think that these things that are happening to you, good, bad, whatever it is just happening to you for no reason. When something bad happens to you, you're supposed to be gaining something good from it. There is a lesson to learn in that, something good, but you have to be able to be open to understanding and leaning on not your own understanding, but leaning on God's understanding. And it's so important. It's so important to understand. And we can't understand only our way. And actually, our way is not the right way. God's way is the right way, because God orchestrates all these things. Something might happen to you and you're like, well, I made the right decision, and look what I got out of it, and I got this out of it. No, God orchestrated it that way for you to get to that point where you are. And you're supposed to praise God for that. You're supposed to show God's grace that he has given you, show God's blessing that he has given you, but instead you do not see it. And so therefore you just humble it all for yourself. You just keep it all. It's a selfish thing. Oh, I did that and I did that. No, God did that. God gave us life. God gave us a heart that beats and feels love. God gave us a womb to carry a child. God gave us lungs so that we can breathe. God gave us all of that. God gave us the trees because he knew the trees would provide us with oxygen that would give us life. Without the trees, we won't have life on this earth. There is just so many things that people just are refused to see. So when we are alienated parents, this is where I'm going with this. I want you to understand that I know sometimes you may feel like all is lost, and that you may feel like there's nobody there, and you may feel like this is a horrible life, and you may feel like this is a curse, and you may scream and kick and cry and want to blame God and hate God, but it's not God, I assure you, that wants to hurt you. It's you being you in this flesh carnal world that is making decisions and not understanding the direction that God is trying to point you in and understanding God's way. And you are actually stopping yourself